Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Summer has finally arrived. We got 83 degrees out. Nice, and grass is greening up. Some thunderstorms today. Trees are starting to pop out their buds. Tomorrow it's supposed to be 90, but guess what? Spring's back next week within the 50s. Eee. Anyways, so on today's video, we're going to talk Impala stuff. Impala. Don't say Impala. It's Impala. There's an A right there. And right there. There's two A's. No U. So, how do you know if you have a true Impala SS, if you have a Caprice 9C1, if you have a base model Caprice? I'll talk about those little features here today. So to clarify it, I'm only going to be talking about the third gen Caprice Impalas. I'm not going to be talking about the boxy or anything like that. So we'll specifically get into just third gen stuff. So let's get into it. For those who don't know, these cars were built down in Arlington, Texas, and they should have this Arlington, Texas tag on there. Mine's a little faded out, but built in Arlington, Texas. So 1990 would have been your last year for the boxy Caprice, and 91 model year, GM needed to upgrade the Caprice. So what they did is they made it more like this body style, which is referred to as a bubble. The 91-92 Caprice had a fender skirt that came across right here, and it also had pointy quarter glass installed on it. That's some of the side features. Taillights were also different. They had more of a, they were still this round style, but they were more, the lenses were shaped a little bit different, and they had more of a rounder pattern in them. Some people do upgrade, put those style in there just for some nostalgic stuff, but I don't know. I prefer these. So this style came around 93, and 93 GM also chopped off, made quarter panel more rounder, and also still had the pointed quarter glass. Other difference that Caprice had, same style headlights, 91 through 6. Of course, these are aftermarket, but you get it. Grill was a chrome grill and also had hood ornament. Those are pretty much all the outside features you'll notice. Caprice also had like a Brome edition, where they had like a vinyl top and whatnot, just like the old school Brome. So about 1992, John Moss was a designer, engineer, fabricator, whatnot, worked for GM, decided he was going to make his mark on something. So he took a 91 body style Caprice, kind of formed it into the 93 body style Caprice, and came up with a black concept Impala SS for the 1992 LA Auto Show. And when that thing debuted, everyone fell in love with it. It was black, had a big block 502 in it, and it just looked sick. Everyone fell in love with it. So another notable feature on the 91 through the 94 Caprice / Impala were the mirrors. These mirrors were actually mounted on the door right down here, and they were smaller. This body style mirror, or this style mirror, was only available on the 95 and 96 Caprice Impala. Okay, so now back to the auto show stuff. So with everyone falling in love with the Impala SS concept, GM jumped and threw it in production for the 1994 model year. Now, 1994, of course, pretty similar. One thing that they did change, starting from the rear, is they took a little piece of plastic and they popped it on here, covering up the pointed quarter glass. 94 Impala has a pointed quarter glass, but it's also got a little insert that the logo fits on. Taillights. On the taillights, they took the Caprice taillights and just painted these trim rings black. You got a Caprice, they're chrome, unless someone painted them black, but those will be black on an Impala. Added a spoiler. This is drilled into the trunk, and it has got foam tape alongside of it. Also has a nice big trunk emblem. Got rid of the bow tie style that flips up for your key for your Caprice, and 17-inch rims. We have stock, what came on them, 255, 50, 17 BFGs, all the way around. It's awesome 5-spoke rims with the Impala insert. Standard disc brakes all the way around. And under the hood, the power plant, the Impala got a detuned, I don't know if I'd really call it detuned, but I'm going to call it detuned, a lesser horsepower version of the LT1, which the LT1 debuted for the 93 Firebird, and it also debuted in the 92 Corvette. So GM didn't want to take their pride and possession and make something a little bit better, so they put cast iron heads on the LT1, popped it in here, made it kind of gaudier looking with the home plate. Gave it about 260 ponies. So that's for the power plant. Transmissions were all the 4L60E, rear ends 308s. Of course, disc brakes all the way around, which I already mentioned. So that was a 94 model. Of course, paint was also black. Your body side moldings, you got this insert here on the front bumper. You also have alongside the door there, both sides, you'll have the door panel protector. And painted wheel opening moldings. Caprice, they are chrome, but on the Impala, they got painted. I also took the script, made the sweet logo, raised it up. This is raised. And did I mention it was black in 94? Yeah, it was black in 94. So those were when it debuted on the exterior. Now when you jumped inside, you got this exact dash. Dual airbags, standard, gray leather interior. You had a console shifter, you had digital gauges, Twilight Sentinel, headlight control. Your door panels had all the power seats you can obviously want, and you had a nice big long door handle and all your stuff up there. Very comfortable. Replaced the Caprice with the Impala SS logo, and also stitched the SS into the seats, and then you had Leaping Deer in the back seats. Something other standard on the Impala is you had the vanity mirrors, and then on 94, the dome light, they were squared. That came from the Caprice from 91 to 94, just like the mirrors. This part was square, it wasn't rounded off until 95. So that's pretty much it when it debuted. It was pretty slick. Everyone fell in love with it. So in 95, which we're sitting in, GM decided to release 2 more colors on the Impala SS, dark cherry metallic and dark green gray metallic alongside the black. So you had 3 color options for the 95 model year. The interior, of course, you can see mine's a 95, matches, that's round. So this is the first year for dark cherry metallic, digital gauge, cup holder. I got cup holders, 95 Impala SS. For the 96, course, they ended up getting a analog gauge, which they're nice, not gonna lie. Well, people upgrade them and do CAMAROs, Firebirds, whatever, but got rid of this column shifter, put a shifter down here, which my very first Impala was a dark cherry metallic 96, but I didn't have cup holders in it. So when I saw this one out, I wanted a cup holder, so that's why I went with a 95. And also 96, dark cherry metallic black, dark green gray metallic were your two options. You could opt to get a factory CD player or cassette. Mine came stock with a cassette player, and I still even have my sweet cassette for the 95 Impala. Yes, it still works. Stays with my Impala. So unfortunately, after the 96 model year, gas prices were getting raised. All that kind of fun crap happened. And this became the last rear-wheel drive four-door muscle car. Tell, I think the Caprice, and when they took it, but that's not really a GM design. It's a Holden design, 2011 or 12, whenever that one came out. I don't know. Again, we're only talking about third gen stuff. But this at the time was iconic. It was the last American muscle car of the 90s. Four-door American muscle, because you still have the Camaro and Corvette and whatnot. So, what ended up happening? Well, the Impala package was great. Everyone loved it. Everyone fell in love with it. But people quickly realized that it was the same exact thing as a Caprice. And not only did they realize that, when Chevy was starting to sell Caprice cop cars, they were doing the LT1. They were taking higher output stuff, and they were shoving it into the Caprice for all these municipalities for their cop car. So when those cars started becoming retired, people started gobbling them up, cloning them over. You had the folks that would take a normal Caprice and clone it over and whatnot too, but I'm going to go through and tell you how you can simply identify an Impala or Caprice, if you got a clone or not, just by simply walking around the car, looking at some things on the inside of it. So we will go ahead and start with the monstrosity of the engine. The engine, of course, is a 5.7 liter LT1 350. And if you don't know where to look up and see, say that someone's trying to clone you and sell you on a clone, you might be wondering, well, where do I look up and see what kind of engine I have on it? GM had a similar engine inside these cars. It was a 4.3 liter V8 that looked exactly the same. The bore side was different. And yes, 4.3 liter V8. I had one in a 95. Actually, I'll put the picture in right here. You can see it. But it was good. Got better fuel mileage than this. It was a less expensive option. Worked out well. But to see that if you have one or not, if someone's cloning over one of those versus a Caprice or whatever else, start on the emissions tag right on the core support. If you have this sticker here, you're going to see right up there, it's going to say 5.7 liter. That's where you start. This would be 350. Of course, if it is at 4.3 liter, it'll say 4.3 liter right there. So some of you might be asking, well, couldn't someone just buy that sticker and put it on there? Well, if someone's doing a clone and wanted to pull a fast one on you, yes, they could, or just peel it off. Where else does it get labeled, identified, what engine you have? Well, about to show you. Check your VIN number. If you don't know how to read VIN numbers, start from left to right. And your 8th digit is always going to be your engine code. And of course, if you have an LT1, it's going to be P. So as you count over, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ours is a P. If it was a 4.3 liter, it's going to be a W. So you're going through and you see that you got a W. I doubt people are really going to change out the VIN. They might. You never know. They might. Hard to say, but they might. Some people get lazy, they get deterred, and they don't want to go through all that work just to clone over a Caprice to Impala. So they'll leave the VIN there just because a VIN is kind of hard to keep registered and change out. So something to look for. So the other thing you're going to want to be looking out for is if it's got the stock exhaust on it. The Impala SS came with dual stock exhaust. Cat back. Well, actually, it was the whole thing, but dual exhaust. You're going to have dual exhaust pipes out of both sides of it. If it's a 4.3 liter, add a Y pipe up front to a single, and it'll be on your passenger side only. A lot of people modify exhaust, put duals on it. I put duals on my 95 with a 4.3 to make it sound rumblier, but if it's stock and it's got stock exhaust on it, it will have dual exhaust on it. Caprice 9C1 also came with dual stock exhaust. And that was a T304 stainless steel exhaust system, which they all just got that, and it's kind of nice. So, but I did the silly thing and I upgraded to headers and catback exhaust, so mine's somewhere, I don't know where. So let's just say you're looking, someone's got a Caprice 9C1 that they're trying to pass off as an Impala SS because it's going to have 5.7 liter on there because the cop cars had the same motor in it. It's also going to have that VIN code P is for the 8th digit. Then you ask, well, wait a minute, how do I know now? Glad you asked. Stock Caprice 9C1 meant it got heavy-duty cooling on it. And when I say heavy-duty cooling on it, yes, the Impala has dual fans. Yes, the Caprices, even the 4.3s, had dual fans on them. But the Impala SS only has an external transmission cooler. The Caprice 9C1 all had an external oil cooler on them as well for heavy-duty cooling. Also, cooling. Caprice 9C1. If you ever have an LT1 like this, 94 to 96, and you have a big mechanical fan shroud in addition to your dual fans, you got a cop car. Impala SS had just dual electric fans. The heavy-duty cooling option was available on a Caprice 9C1 that added a mechanical fan in addition to 2 electric fans to keep these things cooled. They're rare. I've seen them, but they're out there. So just FYI. Also, you're under the hood, you're going to be looking at some other stuff. Cop cars run a lot of electronics. They run more lights, they run more radios, more computers. So what GM did is they put more body grounds on a 9C1 versus the Impala. If you don't know what a body ground is, you're probably not watching my channel and been here long. However, if you know what a body ground is, or don't, I'm going to show you here. So right here on the back of the engine, this wire, that's a body ground. They are made out of copper. This one just so happens to go from firewall to the engine block. The Caprice 9C1 had additional body mount grounds. They had those from there to up to the firewall. They had additional ones that go up to the hood. Remember, more lighting. They wanted to have better grounds. They have them from the fenders to the firewall. And they also have additional heavy-duty grounding from the ground strap over here down to the frame rail. And then they'll have an additional body mount ground on the driver's side too. Same holds true in the trunk. The Impala SS doesn't have any extra body mount grounds in the trunk. A 9C1 will have those copper ground straps in the trunk. It's additional, like I mentioned, additional grounding efforts. On a stock 9C1, talking electrical here, the alternator is also a 160 amp alternator, heavy duty. Probably not something you're going to be able to pinpoint by looking at it, especially as old as these cars are. They've probably been updated in aftermarket and upgraded, but if it's a stock and original one, it's going to have a 160 amp alternator. All the cop cars had them on there. The Impala SS does not. The Impala SS has a standard 105 amp alternator on it. Don't quote me on that one because I'm not 110% sure, just 99.973.5% sure. So, other telltale signs to identify a Caprice or an Impala, you got to look down underneath. Get your peepers down underneath there. And I took mine off. So, it's kind of a bad example, but they have air dams that cover up right here to right here. And they direct airflow around the car. Well, on a Caprice 9C1, your passenger side, driver's side, and passenger side, that little deflector, it's actually going to be shaped different than a standard Impala. The Impala ones are going to be just round. A 9C1 is actually going to go down and it's going to curve. And what the purpose of that was to redirect airflow underneath the car to the front disc brakes to keep them cooler. You'll notice on the 9C1s that there was a lot of dust and everything from the brakes around the wheels and whatnot. That's because they designed the front air dam to redirect air underneath the front disc brakes to keep them cool during high-speed chases. So as I move to the exterior, and you're trying to decipher if you have a Caprice or an Impala, look right here. If you have a button, a Caprice badge, or you actually have the hood ornament sticking up, you had a hole there. And you got a Caprice hood on there. You could have an Impala with a Caprice hood, or maybe you got a clone. Someone took the grill and put the different grill on there. But if you have any kind of body work there, that hood was originally stamped for a Caprice. It was not stamped for an Impala because the Impala was solid, did not have the provision for the hood ornament. Because as you can see, the Impala gets the Impala grill. So, other little outside features that you might not know if you have a Caprice or an Impala. Power antenna. Every Impala SS has a power antenna. If you got one of the ones that sticks up and screws on, you got a Caprice. I know, you're saying, well, what if we got into an accident and I went to the junkyard? Yeah, you could. I'm telling you, stock Impalas came with power antennae right here. Goes up, wah, goes down, wah. State of the art. Stock. Let's move on to your wiper blades. Did you know that you can have certain wipers that are not Impala related? Yeah, you can. So in a stock Impala, you're going to have, of course, a normal wiper, but they can be changed out. You're saying, yeah, I know. But they're going to have just this normal bar that goes all the way across. Okay, not a big deal. It is a big deal because on a Caprice 9C1, GM added a little wing right here. Just a little wing, kind of goes and deflects. And those are designed on both of the wipers when a Caprice was supposed to be in a high-speed chase during the rain. The wipers were forced onto the windshield. So they put a little wing on the wiper arm to keep it planted on the glass a little bit better. So I know some Impala geeks go ahead and they upgrade those on their Impala and help because they're high speed running around in their Impala and they in the rain, you know. That was always the talk back in the day, but you know, just something to watch out for. You just never know. Maybe you got an Impala or you don't. I'm just trying to help you out here. So I already went through the side, told you about the badging. Caprice will have a thicker badge on there. Those, of course, are easier to be deleted. Mirrors, you're going to have them painted. They're either going to be there or 94. It's going to be planted on the door. Saw a video where some guy was arguing that it wasn't an Impala because these were silver. I mean, look at paint wears off. Yeah, they were painted black, but whatever. Those are an easy thing to be taken off and buff off and whatever else. But, you know, again, it's a wear item. Put it to you that way. Oh, so let's see. Let's just move to the back here. So as I mentioned, the taillights, they're going to have this kind of style taillight for an Impala. Or Caprice, 94 to 6, they have those. But the Impala had this trim ring right here, painted black. Caprice had chrome. Not uncommon. I took mine off my 95 and I painted mine black. Those actually come off relatively easy. So again, you're asking, well, someone's taking the time to clone a car off, why wouldn't they just take these off and paint them? They could. I'm just telling you that they come black stock. So what do you want to do? Well, let's pull up in the trunk. We already know when you pop the trunk, my carpet's off because I got it washing right now. This factory color they're going to have sprayed, it's going to be on the trunk pan. Oh look, mine's dark cherry metallic. Dark cherry metallic. Matches the car. That's kind of a good indication that this is the factory color and so on and so forth. But, again, if you're going to go through the trouble of cloning a car and you want to paint it, you might paint the trunk too. I would. I mean, it's what I would just do. So anyway, as we're in the trunk, as I talked about those body mounts, body grounds, that is the only ground you're going to find in your Impala. Right there. Caprice 9C1 will have an additional ground from there to either here or up to your trunk and mount on one of these. Might have it on both sides. Might have it down there. Oh yeah, there's that one over there. My bad. There's two grounds. And if you have those additional grounds, that was because they had radios and everything else back here and computers and science and all sorts of stuff. But you're going to have additional body grounds in there. So you're going to ask, well, how come I can't just look at the trunk SPID code? Well, look at it. Mine's gone. Mine's gone. If you don't know what SPID code is, it's a little tag that goes right here that tells the build and everything else. If you just so happen to have your tag there, the very last number on there, you're going to see a WX3. Yes, WX3. So that SPID code goes through and tells you every single option that you have on your car. From engine, from transmission, interior, everything. WX3 was the Impala SPID code from GM to say, put Impala interior in this car. Case like mine, oh, mine's missing. Now you guys are like, oh my gosh. Chris, you know, you're telling us all these tales of lies and trying to convince us that you have a real Impala and you don't. I got one more spot for you to check. Prove to you that I got an Impala. And we will get into there here shortly. I'm going to finish up on the rear here. So, your Impala, it's going to have a spoiler on it. It's going to have this cool locking logo on here. If you ever pulled this off, it's got a cavity right there. So, not anyone's going to just put an Impala or, I don't know, the Caprice bow tie on there. They're going to put something there. Because it takes a lot of effort to sand it down, shave it and whatnot. Because there's a cavity there. It takes a lot of body work just to do something that's already covered and you can't see. But I've seen it done. My buddy had a Caprice and he welded it up and shaved it all down and did a bunch of stuff. It just happened. But we're not talking about that kind of custom. We're talking about stock. Okay, let's move on to the interior side of things on how do you know if you have an Impala or not. Of course, we got gray leather. Probably got an Impala. probably. But I have seen Caprices that are gray leather. I have seen them where they're 40/60 front bench seats in the front, power everything, and they're gray leather. Comfortable, but it's not an Impala, it's a Caprice. So if you have a true Impala, the true WX3 SPID code, we'll start with your doors. Of course, gray, 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 gray. You're going to have power seats, power windows, lockout feature. This is all going to be gray. Also, you're going to have this door handle right here on the front and in the back. Can you see it there on the back? Yeah. You're going to have it on all 4 doors. Caprices, sometimes they delete it on that handle. It's just this forward. That's not a good sign saying that you have an Impala. You probably have Caprice door panels, at least. Just FYI. Now that we're back in the interior part, though, you mentioned, hey, there's one other spot where you can see if you got that WX3 logo. Yes, there is. We're sitting right by it. Don't you guys know? Is it in the glove box? Nope, not in there. I did have the original owner's manual, though. I do have all the original paperwork on it, though, but that's not where I'm going. It's your passenger side seat. If you guys don't know, look underneath your passenger side seat. There's a build sheet underneath there. Every single Impala's got it. I still got the one from my first Impala. But let's just see. What do we got under there? What do we got? Yeah. Do you see it? Do you see it? Ta-da! There's the original build sheet. Oh, would you look at that? WX3. Huh. That must mean that I have a real Impala. Because that build sheet also matches the VIN number that's on this car. Huh. Imagine that. All joking aside, though, that will tell you, identify 100% that you have an Impala or not. But I understand people do interior work, whatever else, but if you have a true Impala, you're going to have numbers matching Impala. Your build sheet underneath there is going to match your VIN, and it's going to tell you every single thing you need to know that you have a true Impala or not. So at the end of the day, what does it really matter? Do you enjoy driving your bubble? I do. This is my second real Impala SS. I've had Caprice 9C1s. I've had 4 of them. I had a 94, and I've had, I think the rest of them were 95s. I had a 95 civilian Caprice. At the end of the day, I had fun driving the cars. They float. They are the reason why I continue to have this one, keep them in. It's just, an Impala is the cream of the crop, in my opinion. I like the Caprice. I drove one for a daily for winter beater for years. Worked out really well. But at the end of the day, just have fun with the thing. If you're having fun, you're wrenching on it, you're doing it, just make it your own. If you have a clone, who cares? You have a bubble, they're the same car. I mean, the insurance says Impala/Caprice on it because the insurance company can't figure it out, but if you want an Impala, clone it the rest of the way. Make it a true Impala. If you wanted a Caprice, make it a Caprice. Just do what makes you happy and own up to it. I mean, or not. I don't know. I'd admit if I had a Caprice or not. I don't know. I don't have a Caprice right now. Kind of wish I did for a freaking project, but I'm just rambling now at this point. If you like the cars, drive them. If you don't, okay, sell it to me. I'll buy it. I don't know. I can always use like 5, 7, 8, 10 more. Whatever. I don't know. Maybe my little walk around a real Impala is giving you ideas, or made you think on where to look for your car, see if it's an Impala or not. But I don't know. Just kind of general stuff. So before I wrap the video up, I will want to highlight some little pointers. In the engine compartment, a Caprice 9C1, your radiator hoses, your heater hoses, on a stock Caprice 9C1, they are going to be green. Here's a picture of them. Green. See? They're all green. Green. I didn't mention it earlier because, well, one, I forgot, and two, it's a wear part, so they could be replaced with anything else. Second, a 9C1 probably going to sit a little higher in the front because it's got the heavier duty suspension up front, and they actually put bigger springs in it because it's a cop car. So all the way around, it's going to have bigger springs and be a little bit stiffer. Impala's more sportier, whatever else, but you're really not going to get in there and take a look at that kind of stuff. But maybe you do. Now you know. If you don't, if you guys don't have this handbook, Qualos, I don't know. Google it and it'll come up. Definitely print it off. It's got a lot of information in there, chapter by chapter. Forums, aftermarket parts, wheels and tires, any modifications on what you want to do, starting from the cooling system. If you want to do beginner modifications, it'll tell you all this fun stuff in there. Basically, it's like a Haynes manual, but updated, because you got like stuff like the Z28 cluster change if you want to do that. So that's on page 52. And it's kind of nice because it'll go through, give pictures, and build you a pigtail if you got to build one. And, you know, there's just so much information in this book. It was actually updated when I looked at it here recently, and that's the updated version. A little bit more pictures in this one. Common issues, tools. Look, you can rear control arm replacements if you really want to. Water pump replacement, you know, just all sorts of stuff on what to do. So I highly recommend downloading that, printing it off. It's got information in there on today's video on all of, if you know you got a clone or not, and what to look for. But that's going to wrap it up. My voice is still a little hoarse. I'm still fighting off this cold. And I don't want to keep coughing into the camera. So that's going to do it on this Do I Have a Clone or a Real Impala video. Third gen. Okay. Thanks for watching. See you later.